Wir haben heute ein Thema mit auf der Agenda, was bei uns jetzt sehr neu ist, haben auch jemand damit dazugeschalten, der jetzt dementsprechend die Präsentation durchführt. Und um das jetzt Ganze erstmal so ein Stück weit einzuleiten, ich weiß nicht, ob das alle, die jetzt im Raum sind, überhaupt mitbekommen haben. Wir als OLAPLINE haben einen kleinen Schritt gemacht in eine Partnerschaft hinein, die uns in bestimmten Lösungsbestandteilen enorm nach vorne katapultiert, sage ich jetzt mal so. Und es wurde auch auf LinkedIn schon öffentlich gemacht, vielleicht haben es einige gesehen, vielleicht aber auch noch nicht. Und hiermit dann ganz offiziell, so wie man das auch auf dem Ständer da hinten mittlerweile schon sehen kann, die OLAPLINE ist seit kurzem direkter Partner mit Apliqo UX. Und da wäre die Frage, wer im Raum kennt denn eigentlich schon Apliqo? Ja, das ist doch eine ganze Menge. Dann für alle, die es noch nicht gesehen haben, werden Sie heute mal eine Präsentation vom Thomas bekommen, der einmal Apliqo zeigen möchte. Wir sind sehr stolz darauf, dass wir als einer der wenigen in Deutschland vorhandenen Partner Apliqo dann hiermit auch einsetzen dürfen. Wir haben schon immer nach dem Frontend gesucht, was TM1 nach vorne bringt, was es immer irgendwo ein Stück weit intuitiver macht, ein Stück weit besser macht, ein Stück weit die User Experience hebt und waren dort auch lange auf der Suche gewesen und Apliqo ist da für uns der richtige Partner, denn wir haben durchaus Anforderungen in bestimmten Projekten schon vor der Nase gehabt, die bis zum jetzigen Zeitpunkt mit bestimmten Bordmitteln so einfach nicht möglich waren und auch nicht umsetzbar waren oder eben nur durch sehr erhöhten Aufwand oder eben durch Umwege umsetzbar waren. Und das hat sich damit doch auch einiges gelöst. Der Thomas ist eigentlich als Speaker auch on-site geplant gewesen. Gibt es leider weltpolitische Gründe, warum er da gerade nicht wegkommt, wo er eigentlich ansässig ist. Und kann deswegen einfach sein Land gerade im Moment nicht verlassen und kann nicht zu uns kommen. Das ist sehr, sehr schade. Nichtsdestotrotz ist der Thomas, hat sich bereit erklärt, das Ganze dann eben online zu machen und zu präsentieren. Ja, wie gesagt, Apliqo UX, die erste Entscheidung, ja, warum eigentlich Apliqo UX, Product versus Experience. Wir kennen alle TM1 und wir wissen, wie TM1 sich im Front oder in verschiedenen Konstellationen dem End-User präsentiert und sicherlich werden auch einige und viele, die hier in dem Raum sitzen, durchaus ihre Challenges damit gemacht haben. Das Produkt ist super. Ja, wir nehmen als Beispiel hier den Heinz Tomato Ketchup. Ja. Wir haben ein super Produkt, wir wissen alle, was die TM1 Engine kann. Wir wissen alle, dass es ein outstanding Produkt ist im Markt und dass es eigentlich nichts gibt, was dem wirklich gleichgestellt werden kann oder nur sehr selten oder nur mit sehr viel Aufwand. Und das Problem oder die Herausforderung, die wir immer gesehen haben, ist, wir haben ein super Produkt, aber die Experience, wie man das eigentlich konsumiert, ist so ein Stück weit an einigen Stellen manchmal fragwürdig. Ja? Und Heinz hat das vorgelebt, man kann das gleiche Produkt einfach woanders verpacken, in dem Fall einfach die Experience designen und damit ein ganz anderes Produkt schaffen. Das heißt, wir haben eigentlich die gleiche Power unten drunter, ja, wir haben das gleiche Produkt unten drunter, aber wir stellen es einfach anders zur Verfügung. Wir haben eine bessere Experience, eine bessere User Acceptance, bessere User Experience und dazu möchte der Thomas dann dementsprechend jetzt einmal das etwas genauer euch vorstellen. Im Nachgang werde ich dann auch nochmal 2, 3 Worte nach dem Vortrag dazu sagen. Ja, Thomas, the stage is yours.
Thanks a lot, Henry. So yeah, hey everyone. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you on site, but and I was supposed to be the first in the morning, and I got you just before lunch. But I'm going to try to keep you excited anyway, and to get the most out of it. So yes, basically Henry gave a pretty good introduction, although my German is not great, but I think I was able to get the sense of it. And what we're trying to do with Apliqo UX is really to focus on the user experience and to allow basically big companies and corporates to scale their business applications in an easy way that would be maintainable and very user-friendly to the end users. So I'm just going to have a couple of short slides, and then we're going to dive directly into the demo. So in the product, we have four main components. We have the dashboard and the reporting, which is the ability to put collections of widgets together and data from multiple sources and analyze them from higher level to the lowest granularity. Then the second component is the analytics. So obviously, we know a lot of the audience of our end users is the financial community, and we try to make a lot of capabilities around the product to make it easy to analyze, and also very similar to Excel on the web, to try to make the user experience similar to Excel, so the user are very familiar with what they're seeing. Another thing is obviously the planning. So we support the write back, and you can write back to TM1. And lately, we even opened the option to write back to ODBC sources as well. And last but not least, we have the workflow component. And this is really a unique component that almost each one of our customers uses very extensively. And this is really where you can take any business, a quite complex process, and break it down to a multi-steps process where each end user can follow without any kind of guidance or training in advance. The next, basically, we also have the aspect of looking at the product from three different type of users. So obviously for the end users, which is probably 80 to 90% of the typical end users in the organization, we want to offer a very enriched user experience, something that would be very familiar, modern web user experience, and no need for extensive training for manual users. And there's also a lot of interactions with tools like Excel and other, so you can export to Excel, export to PDF, load back from Excel, and then again, give a lot of power to the end users. Another type of users, which is obviously very important, although they're not a massive amount, but are the power users or the report builders. So the idea of Apliqo UX, that the power users in the business would be able to enhance and build the application completely by themselves without the need of any support from technical teams. And everything is they get out of the box with the predefined styles, and everything would look the same no matter who is the person who is building the report. And also something very important is the ability to centralize a lot of the formatting options. So instead of doing something multiple times in each report, you can do it in one central place, and that would apply to the entire system. And I would show a few examples of that later on. And that last but not least are the developers and admins. So there's also always, as well as a lot of important sections where local administrations can create their administration screens and really administrate the system in a way they wouldn't be able to do it before. And as a developers in the organization, if you have an in-house capabilities of developers, you can even enhance the product even more, create your own custom widgets, adjust the CSS, and basically customize it in a lot of different ways, which everything still remain out of the box, and you can still upgrade the versions, and everything you do in terms of customizations remain in that space. Existing customers at the moment, maybe a couple that are important to mention. So Amazon and AWS is one of our biggest clients. They started using the product about 4 years ago with a small team. And in the last couple of years, they signed a corporate agreement, and they rolled out the Apliqo UX to thousands of users in production. And they are really happy with what it brings to their users. And then another one to mention is DBNets, which I guess is familiar to most of you. It's also one of our first customers, and they are also using Apliqo UX for years with different type of applications, with also thousands of users in productions. And our cooperations with them really helped the product kind of develop quite fastly. And again, this is also a lot of our, I guess, one of our benefits. We're really close to our customers, and all the features that we have developed in the last 6-7 years came from specific requirements for customers. And that's what really drove our roadmap. Okay, so without further ado, I'm just going to now jump into a live demo. And obviously, Apliqo UX can be consumed from any browser. So here, I'm just going to be directed to the login screen. And normally, we support all the different security methods that Team 1 is supported. So whether it's CAM security or SSO, so all the security and the users would just be basically inherited from what you currently have in your application. Just to maybe before we dive into the main components, so obviously I'm going to show each one of the components and maybe about questions. Maybe you can write down your questions, and I'm going to stop at least the 3 parts of the demo where I'm going to ask if you have anything pending. And then obviously in the end, if I haven't covered anything, you feel free to ask. In the end, we're going to have time for that as well. So something that was very important and discovered in the beginning, that we need to have an ability for our customers to have their own homepage, which is very with the ability to customize the images and quick links to applications. So that's something that you can do quite easily, and you can get to a quite different result with different images and links, etc., etc. The second component, or the first component we're going to cover, will be the dashboard. So what we see here on the top is what we call the navigation bar. So obviously each one of our customers would get like an empty space, and which start creating from scratch the list of apps. And then under each app, you can have folders. And then within a folder, eventually you can have the set of the reports, or you can have reports sitting directly under the folder. So eventually with just simple 2 clicks, you can navigate to each part of the application. And obviously everything could be managed through, everything which I'm going to show could be managed through the GUI, and as a power user, you can maintain and enhance all those options. So if we're going to dive into the first example, the executive dashboard, we see here that we have some options. We have the toolbar on the top, and with the export capabilities and refresh, and some custom buttons that we're going to touch base in a bit. Then here below, we have the filter bar that, just as you would expect, would show the hierarchies, like the sub-names from TM1, where you can obviously drill in the dimensions and do everything you would expect, and change if you going to change the value, that we change the values for all the widgets, obviously in the dashboard. And then if we're going to dive in, we're going to have here collections of 4 different widgets. And let's just start talking a little bit about the grid component. So we really try to make the table, as I said before, similar to Excel as much as possible. So obviously you can use the keyboard for the navigation. You can expand and collapse in the hierarchy. Obviously, if you have a dimension that is set, you can use the table to even filter the other widgets in the dashboard. So there's a lot of interactivity between the widgets, which I'm going to show in a bit as well. And something which is really nice is that, first of all, you can make in a quite easy way the titles of the reports or the widgets dynamic. So as you can see, the moment I change the value of the region from the table, the title of the widget and the application we change, and I'm going to show how this could be done later on. And then a couple of more options. So obviously you can have the sorting, where you can enable it or disable this ascending, descending on multiple columns. You can add the toggle column filters, and then do everything you would expect, like just to clear and just to do a small filter like that, or to clear all the filter, and obviously to do some number filtering, like equal, bigger, greater than, etc., etc. Then there's also, with the right click, there is the options to comment, and that would use the feature, the Team1 commentary feature, or would use a commentary cube. And you can see I can now put here test new comment, and I can design the comment in a certain way. So give it header 1, then click on post, and then I can see that it has been added. And obviously, as I can delete the comments that I created myself, and that would be cell orientated, and you can see the cells that are commented. If there is any drill set on this cube, then you can also see the drill result, and then obviously you have a cube view where you can then drag and drop and do all the extra additional analysis. And there is more and more. Now, maybe one thing to mention is the ability, which starting to talk about the centralize of the application. What you can see here is that in the table, the actual is kind of flagged or colored with black, budget with blue, and last year with gray. And then here we get this variant chart as well, which obviously what we get from team one is just the absolute values. And then you have this ability to show this as a variant chart, which makes it very easy to identify where the biggest variants are coming from. And also in the chart, you can see that budget is flagged with blue and actual with black, and that will be consistent all across the application. And the way this is maintained, if I'm actually going to look at the element attributes cube of the version dimension, I would have this dedicated attribute called IBCS class. And for instance, here, if I want to change the, let's say, the color of actual to be green, I can simply do that. And now all across the application, in all the reports, I would see actual in that color. And that could be done on each dimensions for each charts and really, again, facilitate the ability to set those corporate colors and rules in the application in a central place that will then apply all across to all the reports. And another, like if we're going to go on, we have here an example of a KPI widget that shows you for the current the value for the current version, which is actual, and then the kind of the progress or versus two selected versions. Here we have the waterfall chart, which is really useful, obviously, the financial audience, and also quite nice. You can start from a top level view, and then you can drill all the way all across the hierarchy until you actually understand where the specific variance is coming from. And that's, again, pretty easy to set up in terms of how this is being built. Actually, it's quite nice. So you just need to provide the versions that you want to compare, then the list of elements that are building kind of your P&L or your net income statement, and then the Apliqo UX would automatically calculate the total and the variance for each one of those each one of those accounts, right? And then another example for a heat map, and again here, what's also quite nice, you can drill in the hierarchy all across the basically the dimension. And again, the idea is to ability to start from a very high level and to drill down all across the model. Okay, I'm going to move on to the second example, which would be the sales dashboard. So here is another dashboard of a different collection of 3 different widgets. What we see here on the first is kind of a stack column chart with another series, which is designed as a line. Which gives you the ability to show the breakdown by the regions, but also show the total here on top. And again, what's quite nice, and all across the charts, basically, you have the ability to go and drill all across the hierarchy, all across the levels, and even with the right-click options, you have the ability to do the cross-drill for different dimensions, which, again, I'm going to show a bit later. This is another example of a bullet chart, which is quite nice, which allows you to give a quite nice indications for sales versus quota. So, for instance, here in the green, you see where the actual number is, and you can see where the quota is actually set to with this indicator. So you can see which kind of sales people has exceeded the quota and which one are behind. So quite nice visualization, which, again, you can customize and save quite easily. And then the last example would be an income statement. So again, ability to create. So obviously you have the ability to create different layouts, different dashboards with pulling data from multiple sources, et cetera, et cetera. Now I'm going to move on to the second component, which would be the planning, or the, let's say, what we call the view. Which the main focus of it is to have one main table for planning and analysis. And this is where I think the main power of UX going to start to come together. So something that is very powerful that we have is the ability to create in one table multiple slices. So what we see here, first of all, is those 12. Obviously, we have the product dimensions on the rows, and then we have the first slice, which is the 12 months on the period that are looking at the budget version. And then here we have a different slice that is looking obviously at the total year, but then looks at the total for actual budget and then the comparison between them. Obviously, bear in mind that this is like in a real comparison, I would probably do budget than last year or a different forecast, but this is just to illustrate the capabilities, right? So obviously now, if I'm just going to do any change on the inputs, I would see all the consolidation changes, and I would also see the difference between my reference versions on the fly. And obviously, this allows you to connect multiple data from multiple cubes and even multiple instances, and you can have multiple slices with unlimitation, basically. Now, another thing which is really nice is the ability, as I said before, is the ability to make it as similar to Excel as possible. So obviously, you can see the lines or the cells which are leaf level, which are open for input. And what's nice here is I can make as many inputs as I want very, very quickly. I can do copy and paste. I can change multiple rows. And as you can see, as long as I'm making tables, like changes to the table, nothing actually changes, right? So I have the ability to work really, really fast without any kind of stop or for refresh. And only once I kind of stop for a second, then the table would be refreshed and all the consolidation would be shown. So this really allows you to work quite, even on big tables, almost as fast as in Excel. Another thing which is which we support and I think really kind of leverage the capability of TM1 is like with the right click, you can do the spreading. So I can go here and just do, for instance, proportional spread, and I can just put here like just a simple number and click on apply. And that would basically put the number with the same proportion it was before. But nothing but additional option, which I think is really powerful in TM1, is the relative proportional spread. So in this case, if I do this, I would get a reference for all the coin cells that I'm looking at. And then I can simply choose the actual version to take the reference for, click on apply, and then I would get the value from the budget with obviously the phasing that the actual version has. Now, another thing that we have here is obviously those phasing, the ability to add those phasing on top on the first slice, which gives you a nice indication if there's any, obviously in the phasing of the months, there's anything which is suspicion that you can immediately identify. If we're looking here at 537, we see that in May we have this gap, and obviously this is something that might be true, but also something might need to look at, right? And then in addition, what we have is those extra action buttons, that's how we call them, that allows you to perform more specific tasks that are required on one report. So for instance, here, let me just put here the values back so it looks a bit more normal. And basically here, I can now click on this button to create a new product. And that will allow me to select a list of existing product categories. So let's say bike stands, and let's create test product number. I would just give it a random number and then test new product. And I would click on create, and this way now I'm just running a TI in TM1, and I can customize how the notification message would be shown. And then once I've done that, I would actually get the new product created. And now obviously I can now immediately directly input and plan the figures for that new product. And then at the same time, I can have specific actions for a specific row. So in this example, I would run a TI that would actually delete this product, which I just created. Obviously, in a real life example, you would not delete elements in TM1, but again, just to show the functionality, what you can do. And then another option you can get here is to get another overview on a different kind of different measures. So if in the original report we were looking at the sales amount, so I can also have a different snapshot that we now look at the unit price and order quantity. And obviously now I can just simply change here the numbers all across, and that would also immediately we change in the visualization, so I get an indication how it looks like on order quantity and unit price.
Hello, Thomas. My name is Uwe Eschner. I'm from LU North in a local enterprise here. I'm very impressed from this this tool, but my question is, you're focused only now in the Internet in the Explorer view. There's only one cube with all the data you set up. And is it possible to have more than one cube to mix up different data, for example, production and budgets, and show them in a table sheet, and also have some graphics from that?
Yeah, that's definitely possible, and I'm going to touch in a few minutes. I'm going to go and discuss more about the power user capabilities and how you design and build applications, and then I'm going to show exactly how you can do that. But that's definitely possible. And another thing which is quite important and again very useful by a lot of our customers is the interaction with Excel. So now what I'm going to do is at first I'm going to go and export this report to Excel. And once it's get generated, give me a second. Warning, doesn't really matter. I'm just going to open this template. So I now just got an export from the system, and what you can see, first of all, we try to keep the export also quite designed and in a nice way. So you even get that annotation from the hierarchy. You get some of the custom of the formatting applied on the template. And now what I want to show is also quite interesting. I can just go here and just put like 100, let's say, all across those lines. And I just need to do one more thing. I'm also going to go and define this table here as a print era and set print era. And I'm going to save this file. And now I'm going to go back to the application, and I'm going to click on this load from Excel button. And now I would select the file which I just created and click on the upload. So first of all, I have a preview of the table, and I can select the print era which I just saved, which would be the dedicated era that I actually want to load. And then I get all the table with all the figures. And now I can click on the load. And that would now update the actually TM1. And what you can see, we would actually skip. So the upload from Excel mechanism is kind of smart enough to skip all the C-level elements and just update the leaf level elements. As you can see, all those 6 products has been updated with the value which I had in Excel. And obviously all the rest remain the same because I haven't changed them. So that really gives the capability to almost work offline, do extra calculation that you want in Excel to get your figures correct. And then once you're ready, you can just go and simply upload to the system from your Excel file. Yeah, there's other capabilities here that are also quite nice. So you can select a predefined list of subset that would be used on the rows, for instance, so the user can easily switch between them, right? And the same thing for the columns, so you can toggle between showing just the quarters and the full year, or all the periods. And again, all of that is pre-selected for each report and could be easily set up. You also have the ability to hide each one of the columns or by the groups that we have here. And there's also the export to PDF and other options that we might going to cover a bit later. The next example I want to show would be the net income statement. So here, this would be quite regular net income statement where we would review the actual budget last year. And then again, what's nice is you can easily get those variance bar, both on the absolute values and the percentages that would give you a nice indication where the variance is coming from. So now if we're analyzing the world and the corporate level, and we quite easily identify that for the operating expenses, there is a quite big gap here, right? And we want to identify from which region or department it's coming from. We have this really nice feature, which we call the cross wheel, which allow you to drill down by any one of the other dimensions which are part of this cube. So for instance, here I can select the region, and then I get the split of each one of the regions, and I can then drill down and identify the specific country or the region I want to now focus on. So for instance, I can click on Spain and now do the same exercise here on each one of the other dimensions, like the department, et cetera, So that, again, gives you the ability to have a grid which is not very frightening, with not a lot of stacked dimensions at the beginning, but still ability to easily analyze all the data in the cube. And also quite nice is what you can do is also, like, if you have some examples, like the labor expenses are planned by, let's say, department or cost center, you would basically then do the drill down by this department dimension, and let's say the gross sales would be planned by the region and not by the cost center. So you can also obviously combine different cross drills on different dimensions on the table. So that's, again, quite a powerful capability that you just get simply out of the box with the product. I'm going to move on to a couple of other quick examples, and then we're going to start talking about the power users and the building block capabilities. So another thing that we have, I talked before, is the ability to use dynamic setting service. And this is another example which is very powerful. Sometimes in the cube, you have a lot of dependency between dimensions. So obviously the region would drive the currency dimension, for instance, or a legal entity would drive specific list of cost centers, or you might even have a combination of a legal entity and a cost center would drive, a list of accounts, et cetera. And in this way here, as you can see, automatically, once I select the region dimension, the currency dimension value is changing automatically. And the way this is done, I'm just going to quickly touch on the edit mode part. So once I go to the edit mode, and basically if I'm going to click on the cube settings and I'm going to look at the definition of this currency dimension, we would see here that we have an MDX, which is using what we call this placeholder from the setting service. So we're taking the value from the current region, and we're looking at the value from the value of the attribute to the currency dimension, and that would simply be picked up from there, right? So if I'm just going to look at the values that the region dimension has on the currency dimension, right? I would simply maintain a value for each one of the region, like USA is USD, UK GBP, and then I can simply, once I change the value on USA, I can grab this value and put it inside the MDX of the currency dimension. And that obviously allows you to do lots of different, quite extensive things that would really simplify the life for the end user in the end of the day. Instead of changing 3 or 4 filters, it just changes one and all the rest automatically being driven. Okay, then I'm going to move on to the next examples, which is the UX formulas. So we're not just limited to the data coming from TM1 in the tables. So in fact, once again, now I'm still where edit mode is open. With this, when I simply right-click on the table, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. All right. Okay. So when I right-click, I have the option to insert a column to the left or to the right, for instance, and then I can obviously remove those columns. So here we have an example for a DBRW. So this is a specific custom formula that we have developed, and really allows you to create like a answer to the question before, almost any cell-orientated table that we get data from different sources and different instances, et cetera. And then on top of it, obviously, you can do Excel calculation. So you can use formulas like if or dividers and all of that. And what's quite nice on those formulas concept is that I'm just going to go here and try to add a new formula in this cell. I'm just going to calculate the variance between the budget and actual, so C1 minus B1. That would then automatically complete the formulas to all the rows that I have in this table. And even if I'm going to expand Europe, the formula would still get calculated. So quite similar to the active form concept. And then another thing that we added a couple of about six months ago is we open Apliqo UX not just to TM1. You now can open and pull data from any ODBC source. So we see here an example of a table from the ODBC and obviously a chart as well. And what's also nice here, we can even have filters depending coming from the tables in the ODBC data. So how is this being done? Again, if I'm just going to go to edit mode again, and I'm going to click on the cube settings. This is basically where we define the sources, and I'm going to touch base on this a little bit more. But what you can see here, I have the list of all the databases which are available, the TM1 instances. In this specific example, I also have the ODBC set up with this list of tables, and then I can simply add those lists, this full SQL statement that would obviously get data from what we have in the filters. So I can also link T1 dimensions or SQL dimensions, SQL filters. So if I want to create a new filter, for instance, I can simply click here on the plus, and I can create a filter from TM1 source. Or if I want to do it from the ODBC source, for instance, so I want to take all the different products, and I want to take all the different product names and call it product, that would create a select distinct query from all the different product names that exist in this table. And now once I do that, I simply created a list of all the available products, and then I can link this filter into the table. The same thing I did with the SQL category here. Okay, that was just bearing. There is many capabilities and features that I can show, but obviously bearing in mind there's other content I want to show. Maybe before I move on to the power user capabilities, any questions from the end user point of view?
One question: the data you pull from ODBC, is that saved to a cube, the temporary cube, or
no,
is it just presented?
Live.
Is live?
Just presented. We're not storing any data in any stage.
And also to answer the question, so you have seen like how to combine different data sources into one grid actually, and so that was also the answer to the question. Or you can combine multiple data sources, and at the end you can also combine ODBC with the cube, so SQL data with the cube data, use the cube filter for SQL data, or vice versa around. And this gives a very strong capability of bringing all your data together, because most of the things going into TM1 are some kind of ODBC based usually, and or come from a data source, mostly from an SQL data source. And so here you can bring everything together, and it's way more intuitive to for example make a drill into the SQL to see the details. Yeah, so you have only the aggregated data in TM1, and to go more to the details, so you don't need to write complex drills through processes or something. Pretty easy to combine it.
What about IBCS, the International Communication Standards, in your charts? Are they considered, or could it be implemented?
Yes, it definitely could be implemented. So we are incorporating some of the IBCS standards into the product, and you definitely have the ability to design, to customize the charts in a way that would look, fully IBCS standardized. Yes.
And more or less is set by classes, so you can set IBCS classes, and then they will be set to the specific. For example, you can always say use this IBCS class for actual, this one for budget, and so you have definitely the IBCS view at the end. You must just set it up more or less. It's just a setup. For example, it would be possible because you can do it over the attributes of the different dimensions to define the standards that is used. So for every dimension, you can set up which class is used in the graphic or also in the grid overview on the top, like to indicate with the right color.
Correct.
And therefore, you can even define own classes. And define them and make your own CSS classes, let's say, at the end it's that, and define fully your own visualization actually, and you can, for example, also use, maybe Thomas comes later also to it, but I don't know, you can fully use custom code in HTML and CSS, including the necessary little JavaScript to obtain the value, and can make more or less your fully own widgets. I don't know, Thomas, or you will cover that later as well, but it's also a very strong functionality to make your own widgets from code.
Yeah. Great. So, sorry, but maybe one more thing. What I showed before, I just logged out and logged in as a CFO, as example, and just to show that obviously something that you can call is control is different type of user groups and which kind of application that they would see. So that's obviously something that could be customized quite easily. And also from a user point of view, something which is quite nice, you can choose what would be your default homepage. Quite easily. So from this drop down, you can sales that now if you want the sales dashboard to be your homepage, and you can also set what would be your default values for specific dimensions. So again, when you open the application, all the filter values would automatically be defaulted to that value. All right. So now if I just do that and I'm going to click here on the Apliqo UX, which is the link to the homepage, you can see that my current homepage now is the sales dashboard instead of the executive dashboard. So now I'm just going to log out and log in again as a power user. And I'm just going to touch base in a few minutes in the power, in the building blocks capabilities. So now I'm just going to go into edit mode. And again, as a power user, I'm now being exposed to all those extra control buttons. So now just as an example, I can create a new app, test a new app. And I can select a cube that would be selected for the default example. And now once I do that, I would just, after a second, we'd get here on the menu a new app with a new template created. And obviously I can call it, let's say, net income example. So I can just change the name. And now I obviously have blank content. So the first thing to do would click on the cube settings. And now, as you can see, I'm exposed here to the list of all the data sources that are currently set up in this application. So I have one TM1 instance, and obviously you can have multiple TM1 instances from different servers, and that's how you can potentially compare development and production or different instances on different servers into one application. And then here, if I look at the list of cubes, I would then obviously would have all the list of cube views that are currently stored in TM1, and I can simply select the P&L. And if I just do that, you would see that all the different dimensions would be set based on their position for that specific view. And if I just now close the tail, like close this pop-up, with just a couple of seconds, I just created a report with a simple configuration. Now let's just have a look at a couple of the capabilities if I want to enhance the report a little bit more. So I just select the region dimension, and if I want to obviously place it in the first position, I can put it here, and then I can click on the subset editor and select the list of subset that should be used, and then obviously the attributes that should be used as well. And also I can simply set what would be the default element value for that report. So I can now do that, click on apply, and then the changes has immediately been applied. Another quite thing nice we can do is some of the dimensions, if we want to actually make them kind of fixed to a specific value, like the amount, and also hide them from the filter bar so they're not visible to the users, we can simply do that. And now if I'm just going to close the report, obviously the changes that I've done would immediately apply, right? And then at the same way, I can also change what would be the configuration. I have kind of shortcuts to change what would be the elements that are currently used on the rows and columns. So for instance, if I want to also add an attribute here on the account dimension, I can simply do that. Sorry if I'm going too fast. I'm just want to show you enough things before we finish. So I can simply, again, do those couple of changes, and that would immediately apply. And now I can, once I'm happy with the changes, I can save the changes. And then kind of in the next level, I can obviously then set the layout. So I can set what would be the dedicated space for that specific widget. And once I'm happy with that, I can now at the same time go and duplicate this and call it chart, and take the same configuration with the same widgets, get created. Let's position it nicely here. And now if I want to make this different visualization, I can simply use this drop down, and then I can select each one of the available widgets that we have in the application. So if I want to make this now a column chart, I can simply do that, and that would immediately save the visualization, pie chart, etc., etc. So everything that you want would be simply available. And then kind of the next level of configuration, we have this GUI for the advanced options. And then, for instance, if I look at this widget, which is the table, I would have exposed all the different advanced options and configuration which are available to the table, which I'm not going to go through now because there are way too many. But for the chart, that would be the same way. So if I click that widget and then expose the chart options, I would show all the different options. So for instance, just to show one simple example, if I want to make the tooltip a shared tooltip, I can turn this option on. And now once I look at the tooltip of this chart, I would see all the elements together, right? And obviously there is thousands of different options that you can configure and customize each one of the widgets to look exactly as you wish. And kind of at the same way, if I want to change the position of this app or any other app, I can click on this edit navigation button. That would then allow you to simply drag and drop the position. And at the same time, I can change the order of each one of the apps, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of, that was a bit quick, but that's a bit of, in a nutshell, how you configure basically and build reports. Another thing which is quite powerful is obviously to set up the first couple of reports in the application might take some time. But then once you get to a state where you have, let's say, 10 to 15 templates, then most of the time, most of the other reports would just be enhancements of those reports, right? So what I can always do is just go and duplicate existing report, and I can call it test executive dashboard. That doesn't really matter. And then I can duplicate the existing dashboard into this new app and also modify this to obviously look exactly as I want, so I don't need to start from scratch. Another quite important component which I haven't touched based so far. So now you get kind of a nice indication of the different components, the dashboards, the views, and also a small idea how you build the content and design it. And then, as I said before, one of our most important components would be the workflow. And this is where you can then customize your own workflow and for different type of business processes. And what you can see here is an example of a process that has those 5 steps, like a budget for 2024, where you would start each one of the steps, basically could have multiple sub-steps. And it's quite nice where you can add this indication and information what should be done in each one of the steps or the sub-steps. And then eventually, in this way, you can build together to the end users in the different departments a very nice workflow where they can complete all the steps, and then they have everything kind of nicely built together. And it could even be customized where you can add some verification steps, and you would not be able to proceed to the next step until you completed a certain steps, et cetera, et cetera. And this is, if you think about it, this is kind of a different, almost allowing a different navigation of the different components we have. So you can take any one of the existing dashboards or the views and then add them as a sub-steps to this workflow, and that the users would be able to then complete the process and know exactly where they are in a quite easy and neat way.
Not really a question, but maybe you can show the row master option with 2 cubes, because I think that's a real feature of Apliqo. So maybe you can show it that you not only have to type in dbar v formulas.
So if you actually look at this simple planning template, and we would see how it's actually being built. And as I said before, we have this concept of those 2 slices, right? The one that brings us the months, and then the other slice that brings us the totals, right? So if I'm going to click here in the cube settings, I'm going to see here that I have those 2 tabs, and I have those 2 slices, which one is the product and have the period dimension on the rows, right? And then here I have the summary, which has the product dimension also on the rows, but then looks at the period dimension at the total year, and then has the version dimension with this definition. Now, if we're looking here at the view definition, we can set which one of the sub views would be the master view and would actually drive the zero suppression. So that's, if you think about it, we also like something which is very important is to obviously make sure that we're showing the right data for each row, for each one of the slices. And when the view is zero suppressed, we're actually doing quite smart thing where we're firing the result, the first MDX with the result of the master view. Then we get the list of elements that are being populated as data. And then based on that result, we fire to TM1 the list of elements that we want to get the data for the other slices that are connected. Right? So just to show how it's being done, if I actually want to create a new subview here, and I can, for instance, grab the element attributes of the product dimension, and let's call it attributes, and click on create. And now I would have here a 3rd tab. So I would also drag the product dimension to the rows, and I would drag the element attributes product dimensions into the columns. And I'm just going to select a couple of attributes, doesn't really matter, code and description or those 3, and click on apply. And now if I'm going to close the report, should get those extra 3 columns here, which are looking at the element attributes cube at those products, right?
Hi Thomas, this is Ranjit from OLAPLINE. I had one challenge of working with, finding the dimensionality of a cubes while working with the DBRW manually. So I couldn't find the dimensionality within the cube, because if you show the cubes, there are only the views underneath it, but I couldn't find it. Is there any way that you can show us?
Yeah, unfortunately, like at the moment, there isn't like a autocomplete for the formula, but that's something we're planning to add in the future.
So then it would be actually not needed to see the dimension. I think we just type DBRW, then the cube name, and the rest will be auto-filled. And you just need to replace then the values. So it will be way easier in the future.
Yeah. So you would have like a dialogue similar to Excel where, based on the cube, you would get like the number of dimensions that you have, and then you would be able to, set those values. Yeah, correct. As I said, there's much more to cover, and obviously you feel free to contact us. So I'm now going to go back to the presentation, and just as a final words, one of the reasons, or some of the reasons to choose Apliqo UX is the obvious one is to put the power back in the business. So as you show now, like if you know the TM1 model, then you have the capabilities to really build a lot of enterprise large applications without the need to use any code. You can go live really fast and re-leverage what you built over the time. You get the best user experience out of the box. So again, it doesn't really matter which developer or which power user is building the application. You have the assurance it would look the same all the time in all the different applications. And then you also have the ability to get the Apliqo framework that would allow you to accelerate some of the schema administration points. Yeah, this is about a bit about the roadmap, but I guess it's less relevant for today. And I can now, I guess, pass the final slide to Henry.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thomas, and thank you very much for presenting the whole solution. I hope it made a lot of you also interested in the solution. But yeah, how we can go forward. And so we as OLAPLINE and as a cooperation with Apliqo, yeah, we'll make an offer now to everybody who's here and also for everybody out there. So if you want to make a risk-free POC or test of the Apliqo UX solution in your company, in your enterprise, then we with Apliqo together give you a 2 months free trial for the Apliqo solution. We as OLAPLINE will be also delivering a consulting package to it for you, and actually everything what you need to get started. So we will make the installation as well, the base setup, connect all the data sources to it, give it a little bit of first introduction into the product as well. And then you can like risk-free test it like 2 months for yourself, and then come back to us and hopefully start the implementation project. So this is an offer from us, so you get also the consulting package. All you need to get started, a little setup, a little training, and POC of your choice. So if you have any specific business requirement, business need, then we will talk with you in such a POC together, and also as well with the colleagues of Apliqo who will assist us as well. We invest in being certified developers for Apliqo as well, and our consultants will be able to deliver that information all to you to make such POC together. So that's an offer. So if you would like to do it, then please come to us, and we can align on when to do it and where to do it, and how much effort it at the end would be. So thank you very much, and also Thomas, thank you very much. It was a very deep dive presentation, very detailed. I hope everybody of you could gain a lot of insights into the product, and happy to talk about where it could be a solution and where it could be used. So Thomas, thank you very much, and probably this applause is for you.